Good morning, everybody. My name is Jess. I'm joining from CSIRO. We're now called the Technology Unit rather than Data 61.
Excellent.
There have been some changes. Um, as Katarina mentioned, I have a background in psychology and human factors and looking at how that's applied to technology, particularly AI. What we're planning to do today is actually more of a interactive thing rather than a presentation as such. So I haven't got any slides or anything like that. What we had planned to do is walk through how to use the system that Stephen talked about the other day, SciLire, to create a data set and just be able to have a play. So I can't really see in the room whether people have computers or whether that's, oh yeah.
They do have. I think most of them do because we're doing project work later today or group work. So I'm assuming
Okay.
that most people would have a laptop.
Well, I would recommend, I guess, just so that this is not like completely boring for everybody, that if you would like to play along at home, I know some people have registered for a SciLire account, but I will just put the link in the chat, or Stephen, if you've got the link there.
And we'll put it on Discord.
If you want to trial it out today as we go through, if you go to that website and register quickly, maybe myself or Stephen can approve it and give you access, and then you can follow along. And while that's also happening, I'll also put just some demo materials in the chat as well. Yeah, I approved some this morning, so they should be all good. Here we go. Okay, so I'm just popping in the chat as well, just some documents that can be used that I was going to go through a demo of how to use SciLire to set up. Hopefully that went through. NCC example zip.
Is that something that people who are doing the walkthrough will need to download to?
Yeah. Okay, so what we're hoping to do today is go through a bit of a demo of how to use SciLire. So I think Stephen would have talked a little bit about this on Friday, but I guess just to give you an idea of how SciLire came about, this was developed in a Data 61 project to support people who wanted to do reviews, say systematic reviews of data literature, by extracting information from PDFs and putting it into a kind of structured tabular format. And it was a project that involved a team of people from Data 61 working with domain users. And in the sort of working with different use cases and different users, we sort of saw a range of other applications that it could be useful for. So it's I'll go through a few sort of examples of the kinds of tables that we might use something like SciLire for, and they might be the kinds of things that are useful in your research. So it's a little bit different to something like Notebook LM if you've used that. So rather than having to write a prompt in SciLire, it uses a structured tabular format. So if we've got a picture here, you can see the table that you extract out from SciLire. So you don't have to sort of write a prompt to extract information out. Instead, what you do is you give it a template of the kinds of data that you like. The other thing with SciLire is, as we all know, large language models are not perfect and they tend to make errors. So we've tried to build in to SciLire tools to help people vet their results and, you know, check that they do align with what is in the literature. So I'll give you an example of a few different tables that show the kind of things you might extract. Maybe this one here. So here's an example where we've got some PDFs and I'm extracting out some general information about those PDFs. So the phenomenon being studied, the topic, experimental design, recommendations, conclusions, etc. So we've given SciLire this template of the information that we want to extract out and uploaded these PDFs. And this is what it's pulled out, and it's got a little summary for each of the PDFs. There's just a couple in this example. But you can see that's kind of like high level sort of summary information about the research. Here's another example here that I think mixes both quantitative and qualitative data. Yeah, so I've asked it, this is, so my background was in cognitive psychology and attention. This is the area I did my PhD in. So I've asked it to extract out some information about the type of task that was given to the participants, numbers relevant to the study. And it does pretty well at extracting out numeric data as well as the more qualitative labels. The other thing I'll note with SciLire is in talking with users, we found that for a lot of people, they want to extract out multiple things from one PDF. So, for example, here in these PDFs, I want to extract out information about the experiment that was conducted, but often there are multiple experiments recorded in one paper. So we've set SciLire up to extract out multiple rows or multiple records for each PDF. So there are different ways that might come out. For example, if you're studying different populations that are reported in one paper, you might want a record relevant to each of those populations. Or we've done research we've worked with researchers in food and agriculture who are looking at different species of plants and insects related to those plants. And so they want to have multiple records for each of the insects and plants that are reported in each paper. So that's also something SciLire will do. So that's a kind of high-level overview of the kind of thing that you can pull out with SciLire. But I thought what we can do here is just go through a demo to have a play with how it works. We've developed SciLire so that you can improve on the outputs that it produces by giving it a little bit of training data. So I'll show you how that works. And I guess the idea would be that if you wanted to use it for your group projects or for your own project going ahead, we can have a bit of a chat about that towards the end. So I shared those files in the chat. So hopefully everybody got a copy of the, it's called NCC something, NCC example.
A zip file, right?
What was that, sorry?
Was it in a zip format?
Yes, in a zip format.
Yeah, perfect.
So that folder has basically what you need to start a SciLire project. So what you need to start off is a bunch of PDFs that you would like to extract information out of, and a template of what you would like the data to look like. So I was going to show you mine, but you can open up the folder and you'll see firstly the Excel document in there, the template document. This is basically a list of the kinds of things that you would like to extract out from these PDFs. So to give you a summary of this this example case that we're working with today, the NCC is the National Construction Code. It's a code that covers building new buildings in Australia, and it's lots of rules and regulations that like builders and architects and all of that need to follow. So we had a proposal recently that I was involved in that was looking at using AI to improve how people access the NCC. And so to get a bit of a understanding of, I guess, people's thoughts on the current NCC, there had been some consultation recently, and a bunch of people had submitted their feelings on the NCC to the Department of Finance. So I downloaded a bunch of those documents and converted them to PDFs. So there's some of the PDFs you can see in there. And then I wanted to upload them to SciLire and use SciLire to give me a bit of a summary of the different attitudes and recommendations that people had.
And just to note that we can see your, I think that's a Google Chrome screen.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you were sharing something else.
No, I was going to try. I'll try sharing. I'll try sharing my entire screen and see if it.
There we go.
Is that working there?
Yes, we can see your Excel spreadsheet as well.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, so in that folder, we've got these are some of the submissions from different groups on the National Construction Code. And then this Excel sheet has some of the things that I wanted to extract out of those. So the organisation that submitted the proposal, the key themes that came in their proposal, what they didn't like about the NCC, what they recommended. This was a specific thing relevant to us because we were interested in AI with the NCC. And then I just threw in sentiment as well, if you're interested in sentiment analysis. So when you start a SciLire project, you just need something like this, a template of information you'd like to extract from the PDF. We found that the easiest thing to do is to write this as kind of like a noun label, just as you would if you were creating a spreadsheet of data yourself, rather than having it as a long kind of worded query. But you can also, like, I've found that adding the word concise helps to keep the answer, concise. And you can give it categories. So for example, here where I've got sentiment, I could say in brackets, positive, negative, neutral, to give it an indication of what category I would like to use. So hopefully everybody's able to log on okay and to get onto the system. So what I'll do is go through how to create a project, and you can use those documents that I shared. If you've got your own, you're also very welcome to try that out. As Stephen mentioned, we do have, theoretically, you should be using materials that you have permission to use. So if you have permission to access them, like scientific papers through your library, your university library, that should be okay. But to create a new project, I just go to create project. Give it a name, just going to move this out of the way. Here, this choose file button is where we choose the Excel template with our columns. Oops, I've got it open. And when you load in that Excel document, you should get a nice list of the columns that you're interested in. And if you want, you can change and delete some of those. And then you can upload the documents here. So just click and drag across a bunch of the PDFs.
Is there a limit on how many we should or should not be using?
No, there isn't really a limit. I think at the moment it's limited by the type of account that people have. Right. I think it's at 100 for everyone in the room. But yeah, normally we can extend that. So
yeah. So there were a few questions about that on Friday. So I said, for the purposes of this activity during this week, we'll make the SciLire tool available this week. And if you want to use SciLire beyond this weekend, if you have other data documents you'd like to process, maybe just start a chat with Jess or myself, and we can work out what to do at that point.
That makes sense. Thank you.
One other thing I'll add, so when you finish that, you can click Create Project, but while that's going, I'll just mention this bit about data sensitivity. So the way data is handled at the moment is in terms of SciLire has large language models underneath that's doing the extraction. We are using CSIRO's institutional access to like OpenAI models. So that means that it won't go into the training of, ChatGPT or anything like that. But it is, CSIRO's license. So if you have commercially sensitive or maybe data that has come from research participants, so there's human research ethics over it, in that case, you might have higher levels of sensitivity. We do have this option here to check, is the data sensitive? And currently what that does is it, rather than sending the data to the cloud, it will send it to a server that is housed within CSIRO. So it doesn't leave CSIRO. So again, that's with a different organization, so it might not cover your particular organization's human research ethics provisions. But yeah, that's something to be aware of. If you have any questions about data sensitivity, feel free to ask us. That's not really an issue for this demo though. So that's all you need to do to start up. Hopefully, if you clicked on Create Project, it will take a couple of minutes. So I'll give you a few minutes to... Yeah, if you have any problems like logging in or something, just shout out and we can fix that up.
I'm trying this with a very small subset of submissions around social media ban that happened back in 2024. So yeah, seems to be working for me.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think one of the things we found with SciLire is that it's there's sort of a broad range of applications that people might use it for. And for getting that kind of early, I want to understand the domain. I think the advantages there is it doesn't have to be perfect data, but it can help you sort of, hone in on the important points really quickly. And that was also the goal with this particular NCC example. For some people, I think the goal is to create a really well-validated, nice, consistent data set that they could, say, use for modeling purposes down the track. In that case, we have features to help sort of refine and check the data, which we'll go through. Has everybody managed to get a project running? Hopefully it's got there. I'll go to my version. So when you have the project, when it's appeared, to work with it, you just need to click the Manage button. You can upload more PDFs if you like down the track. If we go to Manage, this is where it gives a summary of the different fields that you're trying to extract out, and what the project is. So the thing to note with SciLire is it doesn't automatically extract information out of your PDFs. You have to tell it which PDFs you want to extract information from and when. So to do that, if you go to extract data, so I've already done mine, so it says I've already got some part of a data set, but you should find that these are all available to be selected. And what we recommend with SciLire is start out by just choosing a few papers and having a bit of a look at what the results look like before, extracting your 1,000 papers worth of data. So I'd select select a few of these and click execute analysis. And when you do that, you'll see that it will appear back on project overview under sample. The first set of data, you'll see sample number 1. Is that working for everybody? Any issues?
I have the status as I have the wheel.
The spinning ball. Yep.
The spinning ball next to status.
Yep.
Now. And I've got 9 documents, so
it'll take a little while. So this is the bit where it's actually extracting information from the PDF. So it's sending calls to a large language model. So it will take a little bit of time.
Yeah, so I think there was a question about models here. I'll try and answer from what I pick up from Jessica's comment, but I think if you select data sensitivity as yes, it will be an open source model. If data sensitivity is no, it will be a closed source model, OpenAI's, right? But it will be under CSIRO's account. So it means that CSIRO has paid money so that data is not accessed by OpenAI. Is that a correct assumption?
Yes. Yep. So it's
yeah. Yeah. Does it all sound correct, Jessica, or anything too?
Yeah, no, so it's using GPT-4o, I think, as the like you say, yeah, closed source version on CSIRO's sources, and otherwise I think it's Llama. I can't remember which model it is, but yeah, the data sensitivity one is Llama. Yes.
Thank you.
There are options to change models as well, if you want to try different ones. But at the moment, that's kind of under the hood. So we just have to do that.
Makes sense. Any other questions? Everything's working? Yep.
Cool. All right. I'll go through an example. Hopefully, you've got a sample generated. Again, if you have any issues, maybe if you put it in the chat, Stephen might be able to help debug.
Maybe it's tricky with the chat because our participants do not have access to the Zoom.
Oh, okay.
Maybe better if they just talk. I hope that's
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Sorry, Stephen.
I've been putting stuff into the chat. Okay.
We've been sharing that with them through another channel, so that's okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll open this up so we can have a look at the results that came out. Just move the Zoom thing away. Okay, so you should see something like this, and it might be a little bit different because it's always, there's always a bit of stochasticity with the large language models. But we've got the file name. So SciLire automatically extracts out for each document some metadata that's attached to the PDF, like the title, author, publication date. Depending on whether that metadata is available, this may or may not come out. So here we've got the file name. And then this is the information that we extracted out. So, excuse me. The people that submitted the submission, the key themes, criticisms, recommendations, etc. So you can have a quick look and just see if it looks sensible. Hopefully you're seeing data in some of those columns. Some you might not see much. For example, here, this particular submission, according to SciLire, didn't talk about AI in the context of the NCC. So what we recommend doing when you start using SciLire, so what we found working with users is that often people have a sense of what information they want to extract out for their project. But when they actually do it and they extract the information out, they realize, oh, okay, I've got to think about things a little bit more, or this is not quite what I was expecting. So we kind of recommend spending a little bit of time just doing a bit of a sanity check of your data. So I'll go through some of the features in SciLire that can help you just kind of check check how it's looking, how the data is looking. The first one you'll see there's this signal strength indicator. So you can see, oops, you can see my mouse there. The Wi-Fi style indicator. So that's an indication of whether the answer that was extracted out is represented in the text. This is kind of a way of saying, here's the answer that's been extracted out. Can we validate that against the text? If the signal strength indicator is fully blue, that means that this answer is represented word for word in the text. Whereas if it's just partially blue like this, it means that those words are represented, or some of those words are represented in the text, but not word for word necessarily, which can be an indication that maybe you might want to check this one. Maybe it's not going to be perfectly correct. In this case, we've asked it to summarize key themes. So because it's pulled information from different parts of the text, that's probably why it's not written word for word like that in the text. So that might explain that. But in other cases, that might be an indication that the text could be a little less confident about that answer. The last one, and I don't think I've got any examples in here. Nope. So the last one is if the signal strength indicator is red, that means that those words are not in the text at all. So that could be an indication that it's been hallucinated. So this is going to be more likely to crop up when you have, say, quantitative data or short answers where, for whatever reason, the system has perhaps hallucinated it, or it's converted the data into a different format, and that's why it's not directly in the text. So that can be a useful indication to help check those answers. The other thing I'll point out is this difference between, you can see that sometimes the text is in bold and sometimes it's in plain text. So the way SciLire works is that there are two parallel streams of natural language processing that are going on, and they're both pulling out an answer from extracting the data from the text. If they both come to the same answer, then you'll see the answer in bold like this. But if they come with slightly different answers, it will be in plain text like this. So again, it could be an indication that the system is more confident about the bold text ones. It's not really always the case because, again, here we've got this kind of qualitative answers that are summaries, and there's different ways, you can summarize and still be correct. So that's possibly why those are in plain text. If we want to review specific answers, you can click on this button here, this little page under the cell. And this gives you some information to help review that answer. So I mentioned that there are two models that are working in parallel. This is the first one here. And then if the second one differs from the first, you'll see it as an alternative answer. So sometimes this alternative answer might actually be the one that you want, and you can click on it to put it in the box. So in this window, you've got some information about the document that it's extracted from. We've got the link to the PDF there. So if I click that, PDF opens in another tab. We've got some figures that are extracted out. In this case, it hasn't extracted out the figures or the abstract, I think just because of this type of document that I've uploaded. But if you did have figures and an abstract, it will try to extract those out. Then we've got this top 3 paragraphs. So the idea here is this is to find within that PDF some the relevant paragraphs that mention the answer or that are related to the answer, and to sort of bring those together to help you check that this is correct. So here I've got the answer in the context that it appears in the text. So that can help you do a little bit of validation. I might have a look at another one that's a bit more informative. So look at list of key themes. So here it's listing some of the terms that came out of that summary. So this is probably quite useful if you have something, say you want to extract out numeric data like I did before I was extracting out sample size. It would hopefully show me a paragraph saying with the participants section of my paper where it's listing what the sample size is. And the last one we have is this AI generated explanation. And if we click on that, this is basically using a large language model to try to sort of explain or justify why this answer is correct. So this is a different large language model. It's not the same as the one that extracted the data in the first place. So it's been given the text and been given the answer and told to try to explain why this is the correct answer. So this might be another way that you can validate what's come out of SciLire, what's in the table. What other features can we talk about? So this little blue plus sign. So I mentioned before that sometimes you can have multiple records in the same PDF that you might want to extract out. It might miss some. In that case, you can press that plus button and it will add some rows and you can manually fill those in. And you can also open the PDF from here. The last one I'll note is we've got this summary button. If you hover over any of the columns, there's this summary button that pops up. And if you click on that, then a large language model will generate a summary down the column. So in this case, I think I clicked it for list of criticisms of the NCC. So it's going to summarize down the different rows. And so this, for this task where I just really wanted to get across what the main issues were, this was quite useful for me just to be able to have a read without having to go into detail. Okay, so those are the main features of the SciLire table. Does anyone have any questions or had any issues being able to play with that?
Yeah, I had a question about the validation. You mentioned that you're using OpenAI, one of the OpenAI models for some of the original data kind of evaluation work. Are you using a different model for the validation process?
Stephen, do you know what that is?
I'm just getting an answer on that one. Just it's the same. Yeah, no, it's at the moment we're using GPT-4o at the moment for the explanations.
Right, for both like the validation and the original creation. So you're using the same model for both?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Do you guys know that there's problems with using the same model for both pull and validation of text? Like, is that a thing that you guys are already aware of? Because there's been a couple of studies that show that there's problems once a model is evaluating its own text production.
Yeah, there are a number of studies to look at whether or not there's any bias in generating explanations for the same model. That's certainly something to consider. Absolutely. What we used to actually have different large language models doing the generation of the data and the explanation, partly to account for that. But what we found is when we've got a system that's live and the large language models are being updated all the time, finding that pairing of the large language model to do the data generation and to do the explanation separately is an extra complexity when we're actually delivering a tool live. But definitely in benchmarking and doing research, that's something that's something to keep track of. So yeah, that is a possible limitation at the moment. I think you should think of those as indicative. I think they shouldn't replace human judgment though. So the idea is to just have a look at the at what gets generated and to see the explanation and to see the passage of text that it pops up. And that's a clue to ultimately nothing replaces the human, to make that final decision. And I think if you remember the presentation on Friday, it was very much this human AI teaming philosophy that went behind the tool. So ultimately, the responsibility lies with the data experts to check the data. But it's a very good point. Yeah.
So basically, I have what is it? I think some errors on it. I mean, like I couldn't click when I click this, I did upload my own data, the PDF one. But when I click this sample, it doesn't go through. So only one PDF that can be analyzed. The other one, it says that please check the details with the administrator, something like that. So what does it? Yeah, how should I work with it?
Do you have a project name or something to identify yourself? Maybe just will you need that to check on your end?
Yeah, if you want to, actually, I'll put my email in the chat. You can add myself or Stephen. So if so I assume these are other PDFs, so not the ones I shared, but your own PDFs?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, sometimes depending on the formatting of the PDF, it can have issues with it or the naming of it. I've lost the chat, but I will put my email in the chat, and if you add me to the project, I can have a look and
I'll send Jessica's email to you. 1 second.
oh, thank you. Yeah.
I'll just send it on.
Okay, great.
Jess, do you want to show them how to add us to the project as well, so that we can see their project? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. So if you want to add people to the project, if you just go back to projects, manage, and project members, you can add people in there.
And you can see Jessica's email on your screen. So.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
The PDF. So we do have some limitations around the PDF. If the PDF is one of those completely born digital PDFs, they tend to work a little bit better. If it's an older PDF or a PDF with scans of pages, there might be some limitations. Jess, do you remember the size of the PDFs that we deal with in terms of table and figure extraction and OCR?
I thought it was over 50 pages. Then it's a bit limited. At least it struggles with table and figure extraction, but it should still do text extraction, I think.
Yeah, and I think we have a upper bound on the size of the PDF. It's either 150 or 200 pages. So it does allow for quite large PDFs to be provided as input, but if the paper it is beyond a certain size, it will stop doing the optical character recognition and the table and figure extraction. So that could be one of the reasons for the problems, the problem that you're experiencing there. So when you share that document with us, we'll be able to dive in and have a look.
I think Millie just added you, Jessica, so you should have received. I believe her email would be a University of Sydney email. Yes, this is the one.
Okay. All right. I'll have a look at that and I'll send you an email just to see. What I might do now we're here is just turn to another thing you can play with. So as I said, we've found that using it, there's a bit of a sanity check phase that you go through, checking that data looks like you want it to look, that it's kind of understanding the kind of thing that you want to extract out. Because sometimes you'll find that it's like it hasn't, the way the column header is described hasn't quite captured the kind of data that you want pulled out. So if you go back to projects and select your project under manage, and then there's this option to update the table structure. This is where you can mess around with some of these column headers and try different things, or you can add more or delete some. And so I'll try that example I said before. You can, make some changes like that. I'll save my change. And if you click on that button, I think I've already clicked it, but it generates an example for you to have a look at. So you can do a bit of trial and error. So now it's just pulled out the one example PDF, and it's got those different columns. So if I go down and look here at how it's changed that answer, now it's provided me a category word. So yeah, this is a way to sort of just trial and error different things, different ways of describing things to see if it gives you better results, that is more consistent. Sometimes just changing, like here I found when I originally did a list of the criticisms, it would be like really long. So I tried adding concise to see, and I had to change this criticisms. I think I had challenges or barriers or something, and I didn't like it. So there is a bit of adjustment that you might need to go through here just to sort of check that it's getting what you want. And when you finish with that, you can click Save Changes. And then you might go back and extract a few more to have another sanity check to see that it overall it's looking like you might want it to look. So if I go back here, I can extract these again.
Sorry, have you booked the stream now? Okay.
Any questions on that or issues on that bit?
Anyone any questions? Issues? I've got a question, if that's all right. On Friday, if I remember correctly, Stephen, you showed us the possibility of kind of working together as a team, and then you would also see highlighted by color the cell that was reviewed by another human. Is that something that you could demo right now?
Yeah, that's a good point. We didn't go through that before, did we? If we go back here and I go to check this one, let's say for this one, I only want to use the acronym. If I type my changes in, it will turn yellow just to say that it's been edited. You can also edit it in here. And again, it'll change yellow.
Does it keep a log of who changed what and what was the original sort of value?
We have access to that sort of behind but yeah, we haven't made that available. But yeah, that's something that could be useful if people want to be, I guess if you're doing a systematic review or something and you have multiple raters, then that could be, yeah.
Yep.
That's a good point. And other people have suggested having some notes there if you wanted to say, explain why you went with this answer or this field. But currently not something we have available to users. But
that's fair
enough. So the last thing I'll just point out is I think I mentioned at the beginning that there's an opportunity to sort of train. It's not really training the model, but to provide the data with some to provide SciLire with some good data in order to improve the extraction process. So what you can do if you want to use SciLire for a project, you can upload all your PDFs, upload your template, adjust your template till you're happy with it, and then say, right, that's great. I'm going to extract, data from 300 papers and download it as a CSV and go off and do my thing. But we have found that going through this training process does improve the outputs a little bit. The training process essentially involves going through and validating some portion of the data and stamping that as, yes, this is validated, this is correct. And then when you go ahead and extract more data in that project, SciLire will use your examples in the prompt as sort of examples to say, here's what good data looks like. And so what we recommend doing is that people do a few rounds of this sort of training validation process. And then when they're kind of happy with how it's looking, then extract their full data set. So what that training process basically looks like is starting out by extracting a few PDFs worth of data. So here I've got 3 PDFs. I'll start with that. And then I would go through and manually just confirm that these answers are correct. So I can go through looking at the actual PDF. I can use the different features of SciLire, whatever you sort of feel you want to do, whatever you're comfortable with, and making the changes, not just in terms of like whether like correcting errors or making sure the correct answer's in there, but also making sure it's the format that you want it to be in. So here I don't want it to say not explicitly mentioned, for example. I want it to say NA. And so when you've done that for a paper or for a row, you just check this box here, check PDF down the end. And I would probably do that for each of these ones. Select check PDF. And so then what that means is when I go back to my project, when I've validated all that data, I click check PDF. If I then go and extract data from another 3, so here's this sample here. So this time it's telling me that the checked PDFs are used. So it's using that data in the prompt to extract the information. So hopefully what we'll see is that'll be a little bit more accurate, a little bit more consistent with the form that you want it to be in. And I might do, depending on, how much time I have, how important accuracy is, I might evaluate another sample of 3, check that's all correct. And then, yeah.
There's a question there. Will it be okay to ask now, Jessica?
Yeah, go for it.
When we're selecting which PDFs we use for the training process, does it matter whether or not, is it better if they have some level of commonality amongst the structure and the data, or is it better if they're in a very diverse set so that the model has more examples to see how the template might vary in terms of structure?
Yeah, that's a good question. My intuitive answer, and Stephen might correct me, is that because what SciLire will do when it sends the example in the prompt is it will look for, so when it's processing these new papers here, and it's going to look for an example to share, it's going to look for an example from a paper that is similar to that one. And so I would think having diversity of papers would give it you've got a better chance that you would find a better match for this one. But that's something we haven't really explored thoroughly in research. So, Stephen, do you have a different opinion on that?
No, it's you've basically made the main points, Jess. When you're building up that repository of examples, it's going to try and find the example that's most similar to the document that's being processed right there and then. And so, as you said, that having that a diverse pool to draw on is important. What we've done is shown that as the number as that pool increases, the performance increases as well, because this you're able to find better matching examples. It does, though, how many examples you need does kind of depend on the project at hand. So there's no hard and fast rules about that, about what is the target number of examples.
Any more questions? No?
I guess of downloading the results.
Yes. So downloading the results, if you click on a sample, so let's say I've done a few rounds of training, and then I go and say, okay, that's enough, and throw in my 300 documents and extract the data from the 300. So I'd have a big, long table here. You can just export the data, and that will go to a CSV file. This export the data with the score. This score is kind of a summary of these confidence indicators. So it will give you for each column, it will give the score for the, it kind of combines together this signal strength and the bold versus plain text. So we did have some users who wanted to see that in a CSV form to help them sort of triage the data in Excel. So it might be something that people find useful.
And if you want to extract out all the data across all the samples that you've created, if you go to the main overview, you scroll down, there's show all results, and that will show you a table with all the samples that you've worked on.
Yep.
And then you can export that.
Yep.
And there may be duplicates, right? If you used the same document in multiple samples, the table will contain duplicate entries. Is that a fair assumption?
It could be, yes. Looks like a duplicate here. No, it's just split it into two. I think so. It gives you the sample ID there, so you could filter by that. So with duplicate documents, it won't let you duplicate a document unless you change the column headers. So, and it kind of gets a little bit messy. If you change, so I would recommend not doing any of this training process until you're really happy with the column headers, because I think it doesn't really know what to use exactly in the prompt if the column headers are different. It's hard to align. So
it will use the most recent set of column headers, and essentially any training or samples that you had corrected on an earlier table schema will basically get pushed to, it's not deleted, but they're just not used any further. So your table is always the most recent set of column headers. But so it is very important to get that locked in before you start to do this feedback loop.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think that's probably the main things in SciLire. I guess there's a help function for there's videos and things in there. You can contact the email, and hopefully some of us will respond to you quickly. It doesn't always pop up on our emails immediately, so it can take a little bit of time. Otherwise, you can just send us an email directly. I might just stop sharing my screen.
One thing I mentioned on Friday was we've done a lot of benchmarking of SciLire for the dataset building scenario, where you're processing science literature and you're trying to pull out this reported quantitative values, often to extract them out as data points for some downstream data science activity. But working more with qualitative data is something that I mentioned on Friday is something that we're still exploring. And you'll probably, the group in Melbourne, you're at 6, you're probably going to be pushing the boundaries of SciLire in this regard, as you put in a whole bunch of documents that are not potentially science literature or come from all different sources, and you're trying to pull out different kinds of information. So this is a really kind of interesting opportunity for Jess, myself, and the rest of the team to kind of explore what works and what you come up against that doesn't work. So please do let us know what you find out, and do email us. We're reading email this week, for this. So
that's very generous. And then just for maybe even my own sake, if someone does use this in a research article or a paper, you've got on your website, I'm assuming, the proper attribution and rules around that. But if you wanted to give us a quick recap of how should someone attribute SciLire if they do use this made some scientific helpful.
That's a good point. Actually, I need to update the documentation with exactly that information. So we'll update our documentation to include the link. But there's a paper describing SciLire at a recent European ACL conference. So I'll put that paper in there.
All right, that makes sense. Thank you. Any other questions before we wrap up? And Jessica, Stephen, did you also have any sort of, I think we were talking about potentially giving the participants the opportunity to provide anonymous feedback, or is that still something that you want to do, or should they just reach out to you?
Well, yeah, Jess, what's our, the schedule for this week?
I think if people are interested in using it in more like using it for a project or have for their own project, doesn't have to be that, or even interested in collaborating further. So there are other things that Stephen's team works in natural language processing that might be more appropriate to a different use case. Probably the easiest thing is for you to just let us know, and we can get in contact. I won't sort of inflict a whole bunch of surveys on people if you're just, having a play with it or whatever. But if you are interested in using it a little bit more for your project, it would be fantastic for us, just from a evaluation perspective, if we can gather a little bit of information about what's working, what's not working, what you have to do to how the training goes, all that sort of thing would be fantastic. And if sometimes this can be published as a use case publication, and maybe it's a co-authorship sort of paper that could come out of that. So I might leave that to just if people would like to. That would be just maybe reach out. Is that the best way to do it, Katarina?
Yes, that sounds really great and really generous of you both to do such a detailed walkthrough. I think it was also really useful to think about, if you are someone who is developing a similar tool and trying to make it available to other researchers, some of the challenges and considerations that you might need as well, I think is something that it's useful to see an example like that. And also I have a couple of ideas of what I could use this for, so it was really useful for me at least. So thank you very much, both.